Welcome back. I think a disclaimer is important at this stage. This is in John 11. We find ourselves in a story which is very difficult. Now, most people don't realize it's difficult because they do the real in and out type of find the moral and move on look at this story. Lazarus dies, Jesus goes, Lazarus is raised from the dead, people rejoice. That's what they think. But this chapter is really heavy. And there's some things in here that might surprise you if we slow down and have a good look at what's actually in there. So, if you've had a death in your family recently, this might be too heavy for you, or it might be just what you need. But you have my permission to skip this if you're worried about it, come back to it later perhaps, or to turn it off if you get halfway through and decide, ooh, it's hitting a little bit too close to home for you. All right? Okay. This is grown up time now. We're not going to do it the way the story's been told. We're going to do it the way the story actually is. John 11, verse 1. Now a certain man was ill, Lazarus of Bethany, in the village of Mary and her sister Martha. Now, that's not very far away from where Jesus is. He can get to it. That's important. The people who read this in the first century or two knew that, but we tend to not realize how close these things were. Jesus could have gotten to Lazarus relatively quickly, within hours. Mary was the one who anointed the Lord with her perfume and wiped his feet with her hair. Her brother Lazarus was ill. So the sisters sent a message to Jesus, Lord, he whom you love is ill. Well, that tells us that Jesus had a long-standing prior relationship with Lazarus, Martha, and Mary. We know this when we read all the Gospels, and we can see that they weave in and out of his life. They're never really out of his life, but in and out of his story. And so we know they're very, very close. And they didn't even have to say Lazarus. They said the one you really love. The only other one I can think of in Scripture that's referred to that way is the Apostle John. And it's in his book. Isn't that interesting? So well known that they were very, very close. But, the word but's there. Why? When Jesus heard it, he said, this illness does not lead to death. Rather, it's for God's glory, so that the Son of God may be glorified through it. Accordingly, though Jesus, listen to this, though Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus, after having heard that Lazarus was ill, he stayed 2 days longer in the place where he was. Some versions, this is the New Revised Version, updated edition, some versions make it even more stark. After having heard, he stayed 2 days longer. Now, why? He loved them, so he stayed where he was. Now, that's something you need to chew on. Don't let that one go past you. There are times where you and I are in a blind panic, and we are praying, God, now, 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 now. We're screaming at the top of our lungs. We're hitting the wall. We're kicking the door. Now, now, now. And God looks down at us and says, I love them so much. I'm not going to do anything for a couple of days. Why? Why not? Well, frankly, when it comes to you and me, I don't know. I don't know. I can answer here. I won't yet, but I can answer here because this story happened earlier and we can read it and see the resolution. But maybe we can learn something from this. There are lessons that we don't want to learn. There are many lessons we don't want to learn. I remember when my first dog died, I did not want to learn that lesson. It was a hard lesson, an important lesson, and one that was repeated a few times in my growing up whenever another dog would die, either of natural causes or hit by a car. hard lessons to learn. Many lessons that are important are hard. This one's going to be hard, really hard. Then after this, he said to the disciples, let's go to Judea again. The disciples said to him, Rabbi, the Jews were just now trying to stone you. Remember last chapter? And you're going there again? Now notice that death weaves its way through all this story. He stays where he is when a man he loves is dying. Then when he says, let's go, his people are saying to him, they're trying to kill you there. Don't go there. Jesus answered, are there not 12 hours of daylight? Those who walk during the day do not stumble because they see the light of this world. But those who walk at night stumble because the light is not in them. Jesus's way of speaking to us can be very frustrating. It's very poetic, it's very beautiful, but it's very frustrating. What we'd rather hear from Jesus, because we're Westerners and we're living in our century, is something far more direct. This is what I'm doing and why. But instead, Jesus, like a first century Jew would do, kicks it up to a philosophical principle. In fact, I think the early Greeks would have loved this as well. Aristotle, Plato, that type, they would have, Marcus Aurelius later, other philosophers would have looked at this and gone, well, that's a really smart answer. You and I are frustrated because we're different people and we communicate in a far different way. If you don't believe this, go read some William Shakespeare and just see how much it changes in a period of 300 or 400 years. All right, here we go. First of all, what's he talking about? I guess we should do that. Time is limited, and you have to be very wise with how you spend it. Whenever you have a streaming service, sometimes you can spend an hour and a half looking for something, one of the movies or TV shows that you want to watch on that one streaming service. And you know what happens? If you choose a movie, let's say, and about 15 minutes in, you realize, oh my goodness, poor acting, poor script, unbelievable dialogue, I'm out. The streaming service will then recommend 5,000 just like it to you, even though you opted out. But you know something? Opting out's the smartest thing. Putting down the book when you're halfway through is not a loss if you're reading and going, if there are things in there that I don't want in here, perhaps language, scenes, or the like, or that you can say, this is not helpful. Don't waste more of your time on this. Where do you put your time? How do you spend your time? And Jesus is saying, I'm working, understanding how time works, that there are times to go and times not to go. And then when you need to go, you go, even if people at the other end of where you're going have rocks in their hands and are targeting you. You go. Recently, I went to Africa. We did a video. It's up there. I hope that you see it. It's a half hour long, but it's. I think it's helpful to see what I'm not going to say went through, experienced there. And it was positive, although it took a toll on me. It was positive. Before I went, the doctors were very concerned because I'd been hospitalized 3 times last year for the same condition, and a condition which could hit easily in Africa. And my wife was very, very concerned. But my wife did not say no. And the doctors did not say no because I talked to them and they understand, if I don't go now, when do I go? This is the time to do it. When you have the chance, you do it because you don't know what's coming up. You don't at all. So my wife's brother recently passed in his sleep unexpectedly. He's much younger than my wife, 8 years, I believe, younger than my wife. You don't know when your last adventure is, so take the adventure. Give it a try. Well, Jesus isn't going on an adventure here. He's just saying, I know how to handle my time. That's really interesting in that somebody is dying and he sat for 2 days. Now, what is not said is what he did for those 2 days. Did he pace? Did he pray? Was he hurting inside? We don't know. But it's really, I think, worthwhile to imagine. Imagine different scenarios. Put some flesh on these bones of stories. After saying this, he told them, our friend Lazarus had fallen asleep, but I'm going there to awaken him. Well, the disciples said to him, Lord, if he's fallen asleep, he's going to be all right. We know what Jesus is talking about. We've heard the story before. But Jesus, however, had been speaking about his death, but they thought he was referring merely to sleep. Then Jesus told them plainly, Lazarus is dead. Now, I want you to imagine you're one of the disciples. You've been wondering, because the message has come through, the disciple that Jesus really loves, this guy, is dying, and the sisters who he really loves are calling for him to come, and it's just over there, just a matter of miles. And he's not doing anything. And then suddenly he goes, I'm going back to Judea. Notice he didn't say, I'm going to go to Lazarus' house. I wonder if their reaction would have been a little bit different. But he referred to the area, which would be right in danger zone. And now they're going, oh, don't do that. And Jesus then adds to it, Lazarus is sleeping. And they're going, oh, that's great. Because if he's sleeping, he's going to be better. He's going to be fine. Remember medicine back then? In fact, medicine, even to this day, can cause great harm. People like King Charles II got sick and was killed by his doctors within a week. President Garfield, when he was shot, had a real good chance of surviving until the doctors got a hold of him. And back in this time, it was things such as scalding stuff on your body to raise blisters to get the poison out, touching with hot pokers, or putting stuff in you to, let's just say, clean you out aggressively, and then to bleed you. I mean, all this kind of stuff was the medicine they had. And so you'd use some herbs, you'd use some salves, you'd use a wet cloth on the head. And if they're sleeping, they got a shot. And so the disciples are going, great. Jesus goes, no, it's not what I meant. I mean, he's dead. Now you're one of the disciples. You're frozen. You don't know what to say. None of this is making sense. And all of it is creating worry for you because death is in the air. Lazarus has died. We just found this out. Jesus wants to go there now, but he didn't 2 days ago. And the people there are wanting to kill Jesus. Do you see the confusion? You really need to see the confusion because Jesus is going to confuse us a lot more in this story because confusion is kind of the point. He says, for your sake, I was glad I was not there that you may believe. I'm sorry, this just got a little bit harder. Jesus is saying, it'll benefit all of you that I didn't go take care of Lazarus. This will be good for you. In what possible way will this be good for us? It's an unanswered question at this point. This story is just, it's a roller coaster. It's a very confusing story if you're living in that story, not looking back at it after 2,000 years. He says, I'm glad I wasn't there that you might believe, but let us go to him. Thomas, who's also called the twin, he is never called Doubting Thomas in Scripture. Please stop that. Thomas seems to have been pretty much the bravest one there. He was the one who went out for food when the rest of them were hiding in a locked room. He was the first one to acknowledge the risen Lord as Lord and God. Here's a guy that's saying, if he's going and it's dangerous, I don't care. Wherever he goes, let's go. We can go and die with him. Thomas is great. I love Thomas. When Jesus arrived, he found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb 4 days, which would indicate that by the time the message got to Jesus, Lazarus was already dead. And if right now you're thinking, oh, well, that explains why he didn't just go. No, it doesn't. Because remember, there were witnesses there to receiving the message and he didn't go. Plus, what does that fix? It doesn't fix anything. But 4 days, that becomes important here in a bit. Now, Bethany was near Jerusalem, some 2 miles away, and many of the Jews had come to Martha and Mary to console them about their brother. You know, there are cultures that are really good at helping you grieve, and this is one of them. I've seen churches that are really good at helping people grieve. I've seen a lot of churches that have no clue. It's important to pick your community. And these people, they had it right. And in a lot of Jewish communities to this day, they still have it right. I think we can learn so much from the Jews if we'll just open our eyes and pay attention. Then when Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went and met him while Mary stayed at home. Well, that's interesting. Wasn't there a story about Mary being the one that defeated Jesus while Martha was being busy with other stuff? What's going on here? I can tell you what's going on. Mary's hurt. Jesus could have stopped this. He's going around the country healing other people, isn't he? He's taking care of even people that aren't Jews. Why would he sit? He could have healed at a distance. He could have done all that. Why did he not? And Mary doesn't go see him. She's not ready to look at him yet. Martha goes out. Martha's first words aren't, oh, it's so good to see you. Thank you for coming. It is, Lord, if you'd been here, my brother would not have died. It's a fair statement. It's a fair statement. And there are times that you really need to be open with God and said, if you'd been there, this wouldn't have happened. If you would have chosen a different path, this wouldn't have happened. It's all right to do that. Martha does it right to Jesus' face. She adds, but even now, I know that God will give you whatever you ask of him. Now, I've had people, preachers talk about this. See, she had faith that even after death, Jesus could raise. Stop it. That is not what she's saying. They're not expecting somebody to be raised from the dead. They were talking about he could have healed. And I think she's turning the knife a little bit here, saying, you could have stopped this. Of course, I know that even now, God will give you whatever you ask for, but you didn't ask. Here's the unstated part of that question. But you didn't ask for our brother, did you? It's a twist of the knife, not a statement of faith here. Sometimes a statement of faith can be a twist of the knife. That's what this is. Jesus said to her, your brother will rise again. Now that's kind of a standard thing for Christians. Traditionally in Western culture, well, really in English-speaking culture, we say, I'm sorry for your loss. That's where we start. But then we might add, if we're Christians, we will see him again one day. He is not in pain anymore. And all of these things are good. All of them are good. I will tell you that most grieving people, it is so numb at that point, it's not resonating greatly. It's resonating somewhat, so please talk to them. But it doesn't make them feel all better. Martha said to him, I know that he'll rise again in the resurrection on the last day. She knows. That's not the point she's making. She's not making a point about resurrection. She's making a point about Jesus's inaction, choosing to not act. Jesus then says to her, here's where it gets even rougher. I am the resurrection and the life. That part, that's big. Here comes a rough part. Those who believe in me, even though they die, will live, and everyone who lives and believes in me will never die. Do you believe this? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. He is looking at the sister of a man who is dead. And he says, and those who believe and live in me will never die. Do you believe that? What is she going to say? If she goes, okay, I believe in that, that would intimate that Lazarus must not have believed in him and lived in him. Well, that's not true. So what does she do? She says, makes a little lateral shift here. Yes, Lord. However, she adds, I believe that you are the Messiah, the Son of God, the one coming into the world. Notice what she didn't say? I believe what you just said. I believe that those who believe in you and live in you will never die. She didn't say that. She was being polite and making a defensive move here, which is entirely appropriate, shifting the answer. When she'd said this, she got out of there. She went back and called her sister Mary and told her privately, the teacher is here and is calling for you. Is he? Did he? No evidence of that. But I understand Martha basically getting out there and saying, I need you help. Come out here. This is weird. When she heard it, she got up quickly and went to him. Got to give her points for that. Angry at him, disappointed, whatever she was, she got up quickly when she heard Jesus wanted her. That's a lesson for me to learn, and maybe for you to learn as well. We can get disappointed at God. We can get angry at what he does and what he doesn't do. But when he calls, when he puts something on you and says, go, you got to go. You got to go. There will be a reward later. Maybe a long time coming, mind. Well, now Jesus had not yet come to the village, but was still at the place where Martha had left him. That's interesting. He was going to the house, but he'd stopped when Martha met him. She left, and he's frozen in place. He knows he's disappointed people. He knows this hurts. He knows his disciples are all looking at each other wondering, what's going on here? He knows that, and he's frozen in place. The Jews who were with her in the house consoling her saw Mary get up quickly and go out. They followed her because they thought that she was going to the tomb to weep there. It's nice of them. When Mary came to where Jesus was and saw him, she knelt at his feet and said to him, where have we heard this before? Lord, if you'd been here, my brother would not have died. When Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who came with her also weeping, he was greatly disturbed in spirit, deeply moved. We sing a song, Does Jesus Care? When my heart is pained too deeply for mirth and song. And the chorus comes back, oh yes, he cares. I know he cares. His heart is touched by my grief. Yeah, this hit him hard. What he had to do, the lesson he had to teach, hit him hard. When God doesn't move, when we're in a blind panic, two things to remember. One, God isn't panicked. Two, doesn't mean it doesn't hurt him. It doesn't mean that he is not in pain, seeing our pain. Jesus, he said, where have you laid him? They said to him, Lord, come and see. Jesus, they didn't even say over there. They said, come have a look. Okay, do you see undertones now that perhaps you've missed before? Trust me, 2,000 years of Western thought, and I know it's not been 2,000 years, but work with me. 2,000 years of that, and vacation Bible schools and children's story Bibles have really taken a lot of power and the pain out of this story. Jesus began to weep. Or as King James, Jesus wept. And that weeping is not, a tear coming down the eye. This is a absolutely crying, gasping, ugly cry. That's what the word really means. It's more like a deep mourning cry. Some of them said, could not he who opened the eyes of the blind man a few weeks ago have kept this man from dying? I mean, you see what the crowd's like, right? And Mary and Martha, his disciples are confused, and everybody's disappointed in him, and now doubt's creeping in. Wait a minute. This guy does all kinds of things. Couldn't he have stopped this? You better believe Jesus heard it. Because whenever it says it here once, it doesn't mean it was said once. It says some of them said. This was a discussion, open discussion going on around the group. Then Jesus, again greatly disturbed. He didn't cry and then get better. He cried, stopped, cried. This is just like grief, people. He came to the tomb. It was a cave and a stone was lying against it. Jesus said, take away the stone. Well, you didn't do that. You absolutely did not do that. Mary, the sister of the dead man, said to him, Lord, there's a stench because he's been dead 4 days. That rotting human bodies are about the worst smell on the planet. Don't know why, but it is. Is that what she was worried about? No, once again, Martha is a master at answering a question or answering a command by hopping to the right or to the left a few feet and speaking to another one, saying, oh, you don't want to do that. It's very stinky. He's been 4 days. Why do you not remove a stone? Well, because Levitical law and Deuteronomic law is very, very plain, very, very explicit here. You will be unclean. And if you're unclean, there are all kinds of rituals you got to go through, time you got to go through. You won't be with the rest of the mourners. You've got to be separated. And if you're a rabbi, there's extra stuff you've got to do to be clean. You got to go then show yourself to the temple. I mean, there are all kinds of stuff you got to do when you're unclean because you've been working with dead bodies. And you've been in the proximity of dead bodies. Some of those standing there would have helped bury Lazarus, which means they just got back from being unclean and changing, washing everything, putting on clean clothes and the whole 9 yards. So she's trying to protect Jesus, even though right now she's not terribly happy with Jesus. And I'm saying that in about the mildest way I can. Jesus said to her, did I not tell you that if you believed, you would see the glory of God? Now, do not picture Jesus turning to her. Did I not tell you that if you believe, you will see the glory? He's been weeping. This is probably said between gasp and hurts. He's broken too. So they took away the stone. Jesus looked upward and said, Father, I thank you for having heard me. Now that's a weird verb tense. Normally, when you look up, you say, Father, thank you for hearing me. Jesus has prayed about this before. This has been planned, and there's a reason for it. That's the thing that really gets me. Now, today's going to go a bit longer. Last week was about 7 minutes short, so I hope that's okay. Father, thank you for having heard me. I knew that you always hear me, but I've said this for the sake of the crowd standing here, so that they may believe that you sent me. When he had said this, he cried out with a loud voice, Lazarus, come out. The dead man came out, his hands and feet bound with strips of cloth, his face wrapped in a cloth, Jesus said to them, unbind him, let him go. All of this could have been avoided. But had it been avoided, had he received the message in time before Lazarus died, and he immediately said, God raise him from the dead, or God heal him, or whatever it was, he could have done that at a distance. We see that with the centurion, the ruler of the synagogue's kid, all of this. We see this. But all that's gone before in this chapter needed to happen for you and me. For them too. But for us, can we look at God and say, I believe you are the resurrection and the life, and that those who live in you will never die? When we're the ones in the bed full of tubes and people are shaking their heads, or when it's our wife or our child, can we say that when we come upon the scene of a car accident? This is really deep gut level stuff here. How will we respond when God disappoints us? Philip Yancey, by the way, wrote an excellent book, Disappointment with God. And another book which really goes with it, Where is God When It Hurts? I highly recommend both of those books. Philip Yancey is not afraid to ask the questions of God. And yet he's a very strong believer in God. And so they're worth your time. Yes, Lazarus comes out of the grave, and I'm grateful that he did. But to me, the impressive part here is this was all God's plan. Was Lazarus getting sick and dying God's plan? No, not necessarily. But Jesus had already talked to God about this before he got there. The lesson, his speaking bluntly and asking impossible questions of Martha and Mary, that was intentional. He's asking those questions of us too. You turn on your news and everybody yells, fire, 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 fire. The world's on fire, politics are on fire, the economy's on fire, everything's on fire. Okay. Do you panic or do you believe? How do you respond? Hard question. For some would say, unfair question. Now the story's not over, but we're going to stop here to give you time to think, to live in the story. Spend a lot of time here. Don't rush to the end. Look at the questions. Imagine the faces. Imagine what the weather's like. How do you feel when you're hearing the people in the crowd going, oh, wait a minute, this guy could have done this. Why wouldn't he do this? What's up with this guy? And then remember that this is the way we think, although we are usually too righteous to say, this is what we think often about God. Why didn't God stop this? He could have stopped this. Why didn't God do this instead? He could have done this. Those are good questions. And if you read the Psalms, you find out that God's people are not afraid to ask those questions often. And the Psalms were what Jesus prayed and sang as he grew up and what he quoted as an adult. There's a lesson in there. We're going to do part 2 of this next week. All right? Thank you for supporting us. Those of you that give, feed our families. The 3 of us that are full-time here. You allow me to go to Africa, but you also allow me to go to Oklahoma City, Dallas, Houston, Louisiana State Penitentiary, Columbus, Ohio. You allow me to go. Thank you. Let's just keep telling these stories. Let's get deeper with Jesus. And we'll do it together. All right? A bit at a time. Cheers.